Okay, so today we are diving into a really interesting matchup in the astrological world. It's Cancer and Aquarius compatibility.
Oh, yeah.
You know, at first glance, you wouldn't necessarily think these two signs would have tons in common.
Right.
Cancer being all about, emotions and home and creating that sense of security. And then you have Aquarius, who's much more about freedom and pushing boundaries and kind of like shaking things up a bit.
Exactly. It's like classic opposites attract,
Yeah.
but making it last, that's the real question.
Right. And that's what we are going to be like really taking a deep dive into today.
Yeah.
Because our source material goes into, all the different facets of this relationship. But
hmm
I think a really interesting place to start, and this is where the source material starts, is intimacy. Because apparently the bedroom can be a little bit of a conundrum for these two.
It can be really interesting because the source points out this tension between Cancer bringing a lot of emotion and tenderness to the bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
They crave that connection, feeling seen and understood by their partner,
Mm-hmm.
and Aquarius being a little bit more physical driven,
That makes sense.
a little more interested in experimentation,
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Yeah, given their like free-spirited nature, I can definitely see that.
Right.
But how do they find a balance then?
That's the question, right? And it comes down to communication and the willingness to compromise a little bit so Aquarius can slow down, appreciate that emotional depth that Cancer is bringing,
Mm-hmm.
understand that physical touch is very much tied to emotional connection for Cancer.
So it's not just about the physical act for Cancer, it's about feeling safe and loved in that moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
And for Cancer, it might be about embracing a little spontaneity,
Okay.
being open to trying new things, stepping outside of that comfort zone just a bit,
Yeah.
finding that balance between security and novelty.
It's about learning to speak each other's love languages both in and out of the bedroom.
Absolutely. And speaking of communication, that's another area where these two can clash.
Uh-huh.
Cancer thrives on these really open, heartfelt conversations.
Yeah.
They want to really dive into all those emotions, all the nuances of their partner's feelings.
And we know Aquarius is all about honesty.
Right.
But their approach is not always so subtle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Aquarius values honesty above all else,
Yeah.
but they can be blunt or detached, even if it's unintentional.
Right.
Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer pouring their heart out, expressing their deepest fears and insecurities. And Aquarius comes back with this logical, almost clinical analysis.
Oh, that could definitely lead to some hurt feelings.
It doesn't mean Aquarius doesn't care.
Right.
They just process things differently.
Right.
They don't always understand the need for these really lengthy emotional discussions.
Okay. So how do they bridge that gap?
Hmm.
How can Aquarius reassure Cancer that they are truly listening, even if they don't always have that like perfect emotional response?
It's about Aquarius making that effort to understand the why
Okay.
behind those needs that Cancer has.
Yeah.
Slowing down, actively listening, offering those words of affirmation, even if it feels unnatural at first.
Okay.
For Cancer, it's about communicating those needs directly. Understanding that direct approach from Aquarius isn't disinterest, it's how they show they care.
Yeah, it's just their way.
Exactly.
It sounds like both have to be pretty patient and understanding of each other.
Yeah, for sure. And, this whole dynamic of bridging the gap between like that emotional expression and the more intellectual processing. I think that plays out in their values too.
Oh, interesting, because like on the surface, you would think their values really clash.
Yeah.
Cancer's all about like family tradition.
Right.
Aquarius is like, let's break the mold.
Totally.
Right,
The
right.
source actually calls it the values crossroads, which I love.
Yeah.
Like they're going to hit that for sure.
Yeah.
It's like you could picture Cancer, cozy nights by the fireplace surrounded by loved ones.
Yeah.
And Aquarius is thinking about, living in a yurt, traveling the world.
Talk about two different visions, right?
Total opposite ends of the spectrum.
But what's interesting is the source says that there's more common ground than you might think.
There is, and it's that shared thirst for knowledge.
Okay.
Now, how they pursue that knowledge might be different,
Right.
but that underlying desire is the same.
I like that.
So, Cancer might be drawn to history, psychology, the arts, anything that helps them go deep into like the human experience,
And Aquarius, with their innovative nature, probably more into science and technology,
Yeah.
things that are very future-oriented.
Right. Always trying to find new ways of understanding the world.
Yeah.
And that shared intellectual curiosity can actually be really powerful for them.
Okay.
It gives them something to always explore together.
Yeah.
To learn from each other, to talk about
Speaking of exploring, I think the source mentioned travel as being like a big point of connection.
Yes.
Something about a Boeing 747 and a parachute.
Yes. The source uses this hilarious image of Cancer, landing safely in a Boeing 747.
Yeah.
And their Aquarius partner is like, see, yeah, I'm going to parachute out. And it's quirky, but it really does a good job of illustrating like how they approach travel differently.
How would that actually look like in a real life scenario, though?
Well, think about it. Cancer loves history and culture.
Yeah.
So, they're going to be in their element, exploring ruins, going to markets, really soaking up, the food, the atmosphere.
And Aquarius would be like, let's go off the beaten path.
Yeah, 100%. Aquarius is like, I'm going to go make friends with the locals.
Yeah.
Find some hidden gem that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Let's learn a little bit of the language.
Yeah.
Like they just thrive on that sense of like breaking free from the norm.
So even though they have different travel styles, the actual act of experiencing something new together that can actually bring them closer?
Totally. Because it's about broadening their horizons together.
That's a good way to put it.
And it's not just travel. It can be any activity.
Okay.
Where they're coming to it with an open mind and, a willingness to learn from the other person.
So it could be that Cancer's really into their lazy Sunday brunches.
Right.
Aquarius is like, let's go to this cutting-edge tech conference.
Right, but maybe they alternate weekends or, they make time for each of those things. It's about finding that balance.
Okay.
Honoring their own needs, but also creating that life together.
Yeah. And that brings us to maybe one of the more challenging aspects of the Cancer-Aquarius relationship, which is navigating their emotional needs.
Oh, yeah, this is the big one.
Yeah, because those can be very different. Yeah, this is where things can get kind of tricky.
Right, because, you've got Cancer who really thrives on that emotional security.
Right.
They're natural nurturers, They want that deep connection, that feeling of belonging.
And Aquarius is not exactly known for being super emotional, right?
Not really. They're more intellectual.
Right.
They need their independence, their freedom.
Right.
And they don't always get why Cancer needs so much reassurance.
So how does that actually play out, like, in a real-life scenario?
Okay, so let's say Cancer's had a long day.
Yeah.
Super stressful. They just want to come home to their Aquarius partner and, like, unload all their feelings.
Yeah. Pretty typical Cancer, right?
Totally. But Aquarius wants to fix it.
Oh.
Like they're going to offer advice or be like, well, I saw this really interesting documentary about penguins. Maybe that'll make you feel better.
Yeah, not exactly what Cancer's looking for in that moment.
No, not at all.
So what's the solution there?
Communication.
Okay.
Cancer has to be direct.
Yeah.
I need emotional support right now.
Yeah.
Don't expect Aquarius to just read their mind.
And Aquarius has to kind of like step up their emotional intelligence game.
Yeah, they have to realize that even if they don't get it, those needs are real for Cancer.
Right.
And it's about, maybe giving those hugs, those words of affirmation, even if it feels weird at first.
So it's not that they don't care, they just show it in a different way.
Exactly. It all comes back to communication, finding that common language for those emotions.
And I think that kind of brings us back to this theme of embracing the unexpected, right?
It does.
Because it's like all those things that seem to set Cancer and Aquarius apart, how they communicate their intimacy styles, even those seemingly opposite values.
Right.
Those can actually become strengths if they can just figure out how to meet in the middle.
It's so true because a lot of times we think compatibility means finding someone exactly like us.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more about appreciating those differences.
Right.
And growing together because of them.
It's like instead of being weaknesses, those differences actually enhance the relationship.
Yeah, they make the bond stronger because you're constantly learning from each other.
It's funny. The source actually had this really powerful image. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. What was it?
It was just Cancer and Aquarius.
Okay.
Sitting together in comfortable silence, drinking their morning coffee.
I love that.
It's like such a simple thing, but it says so much.
It does. It's like all the chaos of their differences kind of fades away.
Yeah.
And they're just present with each other.
So for our listener, whether you're the Cancer trying to navigate that Aquarius energy,
Right.
or you're the Aquarius trying to understand your Cancer partner a little better,
Yeah.
remember to embrace those differences, learn to speak each other's language, and honestly have fun with it.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
You might find that the things that make this pairing a challenge are actually the things that make it so rewarding.
And that's a wrap on another Deep Dive.
Until next time.